go to school, get a degree, 9 to 5, 401k, do the safe route and take care of your family. Like that's what my dad taught. Like that's what you got to do. 2 months later, he passed away. And on his deathbed, I specifically remember having conversations about his regrets. I wish I would have done what I wanted, and rather than teach you the quote unquote safe route, I would have just done what I wanted to do. So dude, I'm 21 years old. I'm laying next to a dying father who says that the safe route is not really safe. And I just made the decision that I was never going to work for somebody, and I was never going to be put in a position like my father. I don't know how to do taxes. I don't know how to do back end. I don't know how to hire and fire. Like, I don't know any of these things. I just know I can make money. You will never be more successful in life than you are first in your marriage. You'll never be successful more in your business than you are in your marriage. So if your marriage is a 6, your business will be a 6. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Just because rules are set doesn't mean that that's the way things should be. You should be questioning and pushing the envelope all the time. I don't give a what anybody else has told you. If you can't sell, you have nothing. You have a bunch of people in an office going, I don't know, we don't make any money. You know?
There's a lot of people who give advice who say, hey, you got to focus on one thing. What's your opinion on it?
That's a really good question. I hope you're willing to listen to this answer.
What's up, Wealth Builders? Today, I've got a guy who has started 35 businesses, done over $100 million in revenue, been on TV. He's throwing a massive, probably 10,000 person event I'm speaking at in Salt Lake City. I got none other than Keaton the Muscle. What's up, man?
What's up, my man?
Bro, so I am so interested to learn more about you because you came in the office like a couple months ago and you're like, dude, I want to throw this massive event. I want to get like freaking everyone you can imagine. And now it's happening. Yeah,
you were like, I don't know, man. That sounds like a lot of people.
Yeah. Like who did you get?
So I should pull a list out because there's a lot. Dude, the thing is, I tell people all the time, like most of these events, and you know, because you throw them, like you have 1 or 2 or 3 hardcore speakers, right?
Yep.
And I was like, that we're going to the very top. So we're gonna have 15 like next level speakers. So we have Gary V, David Goggins, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, Tim Grover, Eric Thomas, Ryan Pineda, Pace Morby, Heavy D, Roman Atwood, Jesse Lee, Jen Gottlieb, Cody Sanchez. Shit, dude, I'm only like halfway through. Oh, Russell Brunson, Dan Fleischman. I mean, dude, that's only half of the list.
I know.
Like,
I'm actually surprised you could remember that many.
It's hard, dude. I'm horrible with that kind of stuff. And people always ask me, well, who are all the speakers? And then I forget like 2 heavy hitters. I'm like, oh shit. Andy Frisella, you know, like, dude, it's Tim Grover. It's crazy, dude. And honestly, when I spoke with you, that was literally the beginning of my dream of doing this. And even I was like, oh man, am I really biting this off? So
no, dude, I'm super honored to be there. And it's just like, that's why it stuck out to me because like, you see people talk about doing big things all the time. And so like when I heard you say that, I'm like, okay, he's gonna, within the next year, let's do it. And then maybe a few weeks later, you're like, yep, so I've already got XYZ confirmed. You want to roll? And I'm like, dang, dude, you don't mess around. I love it. Where do people find that event?
So it's the limitlessarena.com. It's in Utah, September 23rd. And then we have this really cool VIP party the night before where I get all the speakers to actually come to my home. That has a really, really small cap. It's a very high ticket price because it's very, very valuable. But the event itself, September 23rd, you can get your tickets at the limitlessarena.com.
Yeah. And it's not super, like you can get a cheaper ticket.
You can get a ticket for $200 or you can get a ticket where you're backstage with all the speakers for $3,000.
Yeah, it's crazy how big it is and, you know, how much value it is. And for me anyways, I'm excited because look, I don't speak at a lot of other people's events because we throw so many of our own and I just don't like leaving my house.
For sure.
And when you were telling me about this, I'm like, oh, dude, that's such a good opportunity for me. Right? Like, and we were just talking before this. I'm like, dude, I want to interview a lot of those people that I haven't had on the show yet. And so, you know, hopefully I I'll be able to network with some of them, and I'm
Dude,
excited.
That's the biggest thing that I want to offer the world. One of the things that I'm really, really passionate about is being a non-transactional character. And, you know, hopefully you're okay with me saying this. Like, I know you're expensive to come to an event. So am I.
Yeah.
But when I ask you, you're like, dude, I'm there 100%. Because I'm hoping, and I think you realize, like, there's so much value for you, and I'm not asking anything of you. You're not asking anything of me. There's no transactional piece to our relationship for this, and I want to add a ton of value to you by having you network with those people, connect with those people, do podcasts, get in the same rooms. I mean, dude, how valuable is it to have billionaires in a room where all you get to do is sit down and say, hey man, it's really nice to meet you. I'd love to do business with you. And you don't get to do that a lot of times. And so that's really the biggest piece is I'm bringing high value people like yourself in a room and saying, hey, no speakers, no stage, no bullshit. We're going to sit here for 4 or 5 hours and we're just going to hang out and talk and really network. And I think that that's one of the reasons why almost every one of the speakers like yourself that charge hundreds of thousands of dollars is like, oh, I'm there.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. So before throwing this massive event, you know, I'm even curious. I'm like, what has been your progression to get to this point? Because I know you're an entrepreneur through and through. You've been on TV. We can talk about the TV stuff later, but like, how did your business career start?
You know, this is actually something that I think I want to speak on at the event. And it's funny that it even kind of totally brings back, like, dude, when you and I were talking was literally the beginning of me dreaming this. Yeah. Like, dude, I'll bet you I was dreaming this a week before you and I met. And I was laying in bed and I'm like, you know what, dude? F all that. I want to go to the top. I want to be the very, very best value to give to people to change their lives, entrepreneurs, business owners. And so when we first talked, it was literally just a sparkle of a dream. So when you ask how I started, it was dreaming. It was me saying, this is something that I want. It's me saying, this is something that I want to do, and then finding some kind of path to get there. And when I told you, dude, it was still that. I hadn't even really talked to anybody yet. And every single person I had even said or mentioned this to was like, bro, you can't fill a stadium with 10,000 people. This is your first event, or this is your second event. And for me, it was like, well, no, I can do whatever I want. It's just going to be a lot of work, right? So when we talked, it was literally the beginning of my dream. And I think that for me is the message I want to portray to a lot of people is like, I think somewhere down the line, all of us begin to dream, or we start out dreaming, whether we're little kids or we're teenagers. And then somewhere on that line, everybody around us, our peers, our parents, our teachers, get us to stop dreaming, like really dreaming, right? And
get realistic.
Yeah. Be real. And you know what, dude? The world is filled with realists, and I'm tired of realists. I want dreamers, because the reality is that the world today, everything we have started with somebody dreaming about it. That's what it is. So again, I think to answer your question in a long about way is like, dude, it's dreaming. It's 100%. And I'm a dreamer, dude. I'm the worst realist in the world. And people say it all the time. They're like, dude, that's not even a real thing. You're right, man. But in my mind, this is what I'm dreaming, and this is what I'm going to do.
No, I love it. You know, I can tell you for a fact that your company, if you're an entrepreneur, will only go as far as you can dream it, right? Because for many people, they want safety. They're like, oh, well, I just want to build a business that does this. And it's like, all right, well, you're going to cap yourself out at whatever that is. When you look at who many would probably consider the greatest entrepreneur ever, Elon Musk. It's like, how big are those guys' dream or his dreams? He's like, I'm going to Mars. Like I'm putting people on Mars.
For sure.
You're like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? But he's like, yeah, dude, gas cars, I'm done with them. Like, people aren't going to drive gas cars when I'm done with them.
And every single person probably in the beginning of his life was like, bro, you're stupid. That's not real. You can't do that. That's what the world is filled with. It's filled with realists saying, well, it's always been done this way, so this is always the way we're going to do it. And that's why I like Elon Musk, is because he literally was like laying in bed and was like, you know what? I want to go to Mars. And everybody's like, you're stupid. You can't do that. And he's going to get there.
Yeah, he is.
You know, dude. Like,
well, nobody doubts him now.
No. You can't, because you've watched a guy have a dream and create it like immediately.
And also in multiple things. It's not just like one thing. Like, even if it was just Tesla and that was it. And you're like, dude, he's like, no, actually, I'm going to put these chips in your brain. I'm going to create my own rockets.
Yeah.
So NASA doesn't even need anything. It's crazy.
Dude, it's unreal. And the biggest thing I think for me is like, if we could convince the world to go back. One of the greatest things I love is Christ teaching people and saying you should be as a child, right? And that can be talked about pretty much about anything, like the way that children do things. But I think one of the things he was trying to teach is, as a child, they were pure, and they're not soaked with negativity.
Yeah.
They're not soaked with the bullshit of the world, and they are dreamers. All children are dreamers. That's why it's so fun to watch them in their imagination and in their dreams. I want to go to the Mars. I want to be an astronaut. I want to fly a plane. And then somewhere along the line, as we get older, we lose that. And again, when you look at the teachings of Christ, he's like, hey, be ye as little children, right? Well, I wonder what that really means. That means to go back and to have the pure imagination and dreaming, because the truth is that each one of us were put on this earth by God to and filled with these dreams to accomplish them. They weren't given to us from God to tease us.
Yeah.
They were given to us to accomplish. And you know what's so cool is God goes, hey, Elon, when I send you down to earth, you're going to have these battery cars, and you're going to go to Mars, and you're going to create business. You're going to do all of these things. And all I'm going to do is just whisper these dreams in you, and I'm going to see you accomplish them. And if we could for a moment understand, we're all that way. Every single one of us are created that way by God. So why wouldn't we accept that what's put in our mind is actually accomplishable? We just have to figure out how to execute it. And that's where everybody falls short.
Entrepreneurs, if you want to grow your business, there is no better investment than your own personal brand. The smartest thing I ever did was start creating content and investing into my brand. Ever since then, we've been able to triple our business. I've been able to raise more money than ever, to continue buying more real estate. And it's all because I create content just like this. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Ryan, how am I supposed to do it? I don't know where to start. I don't know who's going to edit it. I don't know even what kind of setup or camera or anything to do. Well, here's the thing. We can help you with all of that at Pineda Media. We have a podcast checklist that you can actually get for free at pinedamedia.com that's going to go over everything you need on starting a podcast. But to make matters even better, we'll actually edit your podcast for you. We'll repurpose it into short form clips like you see on my Instagram and my TikTok, so that people will start seeing those clips and watching your podcast, and in turn, being customers or investors in your business. So if you want the one-stop solution where you can get everything done for you, plus get the education you need to grow your personal brand, then you need to go to pinedamedia.com and book a free call with our team. You can also go get that free podcast checklist and that training program absolutely free by just going there. So go check it out. You know, I was actually having this conversation with one of my pastors, and it was this concept of being a creator versus being a consumer. And, you know, majority of the world, 90+%, are consumers. They're like, dude, Netflix, social, like, I just want to watch stuff. I don't want to create anything, right? And, you know, that's just thinking about content. But even in business and everything else, it's like, I don't want to start the business. Like, I just want to work for you, right? Like, people also, too, want to be told how to think. Yes. They're just consuming. They're like, oh, well, what does, you know, Joe Rogan say about this? What does this guy say about this? And so they're just, instead of coming to their own opinions and conclusions, they're just consuming. And then regurgitating in probably a horrible way, which drives me bonkers. Yeah. But when I look at me, I've never been that way. I've always been like, yo, I want to create things. Like, I want to start new businesses. I want to, you know, I was talking about this golf course idea with a Christian retreat that I wanted to build and develop. And it's just like, it's never been done. Let's do it. Yeah. You know, events with all these things. I just want to create. And it goes back to, you know, the way we were designed. It's like, absolutely, you know, God made us to go out there and create value in the world, right? He gave Adam a job. That was the first thing he ever did. He's like, dude, take care of this. Yeah. You know, and he didn't tell him exactly how to do it. Yeah. He just said, go and do this. And then Adam had to figure out how to do it because he knew that Adam was a creator of the same thing. Yeah. So I totally agree that, you know, it just comes to dreaming big. And look, not everyone needs to go be an entrepreneur and start a business, but, you know, I try to encourage all my employees. I'm like, guys, let's be innovative. You know, don't wait for me to tell you what to do. You know, start learning to think for yourselves. And that's one way that we train them is when they ask me or somebody else for an answer, the same way kind of Jesus did it, where he responds with a parable.
Yeah.
He's trying to teach them to think for themselves and come to the conclusion versus
giving them
this
a
is what it
direct
is.
answer. Yeah. Dude, I love that too, because even hearing you say that resonates so well with me. God gave us the ability to create, and then he expects us to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Last night we were having a conversation. I was with Bradley and Andy Elliott, and we were at dinner. And one of the things Brad said is, if you don't get invited to the table, you should create your own table, right? And I thought about that, and I thought, you know what, dude? And I'll tell you one thing that's really meaningful to me from you. I've been an entrepreneur for a really long time. I'm a great speaker. Now, I'm not the greatest because I'm still working, but I'm a great speaker. I have never really been invited to speak until you invited me to speak. So number one, I want to thank you. That means a lot to me. But I started looking at all of these people that were getting invited to speak, and I was like, why am I not getting invited to speak? And I thought about exactly what Brad said last night. I said, you know what? That. Okay. I'll create my own, which is essentially what we're doing. So dude, this year we're going to do 10,000 people in an arena. Next year we're going to do 25,000. The next year we're going to do 100,000. I will continue to create that which I want, because I don't have people like yourself that are like, hey man, come speak at my event. So I, instead of trying to be, like you said, a consumer, instead of trying to say, I hope people will invite me, I hope people will want me, it's like, no. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to create what I want. And that essentially, I mean, dude, that's the underlying common denominator for me, is like, if I don't have it, I will create it. And that's how I'm going to live the rest of my life.
I love it. Yeah. I've been the same way with our businesses. You know, every business I've started has been to solve a problem that wasn't being addressed in the marketplace. You know, whether it was tax, whether it was helping people create content, to, you know, the events, the way we throw them. You know, we're not throwing 10,000 people events yet, but we're throwing these very high level quarterly events that are very different than everyone else's events. And, you know, now we're doing things in the nonprofit space with Wealthy Kingdom, like launching these Bible studies nationwide for entrepreneurs. Like nobody's doing it. It's like, so we're trying to create these things that I see as, you know, issues that aren't being addressed in the marketplace properly. And so, but that's how value and innovation happens. It's like somebody looks at it and they finally say, enough is enough. Like, I'm going to address this.
And then I'm going to create something that fixes or is a solution to it. And that's, I think, why it's so important. And I don't know how many listeners you have, but for your listeners, like, it's so important to understand a simple principle. You were given so many things, so much potential and so much capability from God. It should be your duty to begin to create that which he gave you the power to create. And the more people that create, the greater this world becomes. And from a loving God, that was the purpose, was to send all of these people down here and go, hey, I gave you the ability and the power to create anything that you want. So go and do it. And that, dude, that's a big thing that people aren't doing. And that's what I want to inspire people to do. You know?
So let's talk about your first business. Like, what was the first business that you created and started?
So just to give you a little bit of a backstory. So I was a missionary. I did missionary work in Seattle, preached the gospel for 2 years. And the whole time growing up, my father was fairly sick. I always knew my father was not going to live a long time. But my dad, from the time I can remember, was go to school, get a degree, 9 to 5, 401k, do the safe route and take care of your family. Like, that's what my dad taught. Like, that's what you got to do. And I hated that, but of course that's what he taught me. Well, as I started to get older and older, by the time I was 17, I realized that that was not probably the right way, because of how sick he was, and watching his work kind of just throw him to the side. And he was the CEO of a great company. So when I went on my mission, I essentially thought, like, dude, this may be the last time I see my dad because he's so sick. So I went on my mission. I was a missionary, really worried he wasn't going to be there when I got home. He actually ended up lasting all the way until I got home. I got home from my mission, and then the last 2 months or 2 months later, he passed away. And on his deathbed, I specifically remember having conversations about his regrets. And his regrets were really, really simple regrets. I wish I would have done what I wanted. And rather than teach you the quote unquote safe route, I would have just done what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So dude, I'm 21 years old. I'm laying next to a dying father who says that the safe route is not really safe. And I just made the decision that I was never going to work for somebody, and I was never going to be put in a position like my father, which was, you're sick, you're tired, you're old, we're going to get rid of you. So hopefully you'll find a paycheck somewhere else. I was never going to be powerless, essentially. So dude, from 21 years old, I just committed. I was like, I'm never going to work for anybody. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And that's when I started down this path of being an entrepreneur. So immediately I became a personal trainer. I worked for myself. And then I became so good at being a personal trainer that a gym had me come in and start running their personal training program as like a subcontracted dude that just did sales. After I started that, I sold $2 million in personal training, and they were like, this is unreal, right? And I realized I don't want to make anybody else money. Even if I'm not really working for them, I still don't want to make other people money. So I started my first company, which was called MoFit, which stood for Mobile Fitness. I hired 7 personal trainers. I went to people's houses, knocked on their door and said, I can get you in shape at your house without anything. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't need equipment. You don't need shit.
Yeah.
I will bring a trainer here 2 to 5 times a week, depending on what you can afford, and we'll just rock out.
Yeah.
So dude, I went to all these gyms. I took trainers. I was like, come work for me. I'll pay you more than you're making now. And back then, at $2,500 for a trainer was great. Yeah. So I started making these trainers $3, $4, $5 a month, and they were working from 5 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, training people in their homes.
So they would go to their house, train them
with a Bosu ball, kettlebells, bands.
They bring all the equipment.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of equipment to really get someone in shape, right?
Yep.
So I launched that, and then shortly after, because I was an athlete, I launched what I called Mo Skills, which was mobile skills training for kids. And we started training, doing the same thing. Well, I realized how quickly this was becoming big. When I was 22 years old, I was doing about $75,000 a month, and I was paying about $15,000 a month to my trainers.
Yeah, you're
so I'm like,
it.
Dude, $60K.
What was your job most of the time? Just knocking doors?
No, yeah, it was running the whole business. So I would sell. I was always the seller. So I would go, hey, this guy's interested. Cool. Let me get on the phone. Let me go meet with them at their house. Okay, here's what you are. You're 400 pounds. You need to lose 150. You're going to need to see a trainer 4 times a week for the next year. Here's a contract. Boom, let's get done. So I would sell it, and then obviously I would service it with the trainers, and then I would also train, right? I would train higher end people, but I would train. I would do the books. I would build the business, essentially. I tell people all the time, because I mentor business owners, you need to be working on your business, not in your business. And I learned that really early on. It's like, dude, I'm not going to be a fucking trainer that works from 5 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the business owner that works from 5 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So we did that. I built my first business. I had ample amount of trainers. We had tons of clientele. It was awesome, dude. It was unreal. And I didn't know shit about anything. All I knew was how to sell personal training and make a ton of money, right?
Yep.
And so I started to learn the back end. I started to learn infrastructure and all those things that are important. And it took me forever, but I knew I needed to go bigger. So I bought into the biggest gym, even to this day, one of the biggest gyms in Utah. I went in, I said, I want the building and I want the business. And I know this gym sucks right now, but when I bring in my revenue from personal training and we do what we do, we're going to flip this thing around. So I started at the gym. We did that. And then from there, I realized I could create whatever I wanted to create. I could literally look at something and go, I want to build that. So it's a funny story. After I started the gym, I went in. I never go to the dentist. I went into the dentist, like, hadn't been in for 8 years. I go into a dentist, and I've been paying dental insurance forever, which is complete bullshit for everybody listening. Dental insurance is garbage. So I go into to a dentist, and I have him do and he goes, you're great, dude. No cavities. Everything looks great. Clean my teeth. I come out, and it's like $300. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? I've been doing dental insurance for 8 years. I've never even been to the dentist, and now I got to pay you $300 to clean my teeth. So I went back to the dental office a week later, and I sat down with the dentist. I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I think that I can get you more clientele. And he was a friend of the family. Didn't really know me, but he knew that I was building things. So he was like, I'm going to take a risk. I said, listen, I'm going to build a whole entire business. All I need you to do is service it. That's all I need. So I went back in and I said, here's what we're going to do. fuck insurance. I don't want to do insurance at all. I want to do this the same way I do personal training. I want to tell people, here's what you need and here's what you're going to pay for on a monthly basis. So now you got all these people in the dental field or dental industry that are used to saying, hey, that's going to be 20 grand worth of teeth work. And they go, well, my insurance only pays 2 grand. Cool. Well, you owe us 18. Or the normal people, they go, pull my teeth because I can't afford that. And then I sit down with them and I go, hey, looks like you got 12 grand worth of work. We're going to give you a contract for 15 months. You're going to pay $700 a month and we're going to get everything done. And like your face is really important. Your grill is really important, right? Yep. And if I have to spend money, I will. So all of a sudden, we started signing up hand over fist people who never had the opportunity because they didn't have 20 grand, they didn't have dental insurance, they had nothing, and their only other option was to get their teeth pulled. So dude, we started having people roll in and I started signing them up. Dude, I literally photocopied my personal training contract to dental work. Like I was like, here you go, dude, this is what it looks like. 15 months at 12 grand, it's $800 a month. So all of a sudden my dentist comes to me, he's like, dude, we're doing more work than I've ever done. I've been a dentist for 12 years.
Yeah.
So, dude, again, I'm like, holy shit, like this is the way. And dude, within a month, I go in with my wife to get a breast augmentation. I sit down with the doctor and I'm like, I think I can make your plastic surgery clinic just rock. And he was doing like 20 or 30 breast augmentations a month. He's doing well. I go, I think we could kill it. Okay. And he was like, what? And I said, you just clock in and clock out. I'll do everything else. And we did the same thing. Now, this is where it gets crazy. I took the same idea and I was like, listen, you're making all these 19, 20, 21-year-old girls pay 7 grand for breast augmentation. They got to get credit. They got to get a credit card. They got to do all this shit. What if we financed them? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, what if we tell them it's $1,000 down and it's $500 a month? It was actually $399 a month for the next 15 months. Yeah. He was like, oh, I guess it might be able to work. Well, dude, we started a business. We did 65 breast augmentations our first month. And my doctor was like, no, that's too, Stu, we had to bring on. So, dude, we started a plastic surgery clinic. And the rest of my life, that has essentially been what it is. I roll in, I see something, and I go, I think I can create something different, something better. And then we just go to work and do it.
That's crazy.
And that's why where I'm at. I'm 35 businesses today. I'm 35 years old. And it's not because I had any money, because none of those businesses took any money to start.
Yeah. You just came in with skills.
Yeah. Or just a crazy ass idea.
Wealth builders, if you are trying to grow your real estate investing business, then you need to join us at Wealthy Investor. If you have no idea what Wealthy Investor is, it is our coaching program and community. We have helped thousands of students worldwide grow their business. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you're trying to get that first deal. We can help you do that. If you're trying to scale your business and go from a few deals a year to a few deals a month, or even 7 figures a year, we can help you do that too. In fact, last year alone, we had over 30 students do over $1 million in revenue. And I'd love for you to be the next one. So it's pretty simple. If you're trying to grow your business and wholesale more homes or flip more homes or buy more rental properties, then you need to go to wealthyinvestor.com and book a free call with our team. It's super simple. We'll go on a strategy call with you and figure out how we can help you grow according to your needs. So all you got to do is go to wealthyinvestor.com, book the free call with the team, and we'll see you there. Well, to me, just looking at your skills, because I've essentially been doing the same thing. For me, I've had to create all my businesses from scratch. So they were not making anything, right?
For sure.
And so they're new ideas and concepts and brands and creatives. But now one thing that we're doing is, taking equity in businesses and doing basically that. Mm-hmm. We're helping them figure out their new offers, helping them with the sales and marketing and scale, because they already have a good product.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just, how do we do more?
Yeah.
So it seems to me like your big thing early on that you figured out was, dude, I know how to get leads. I know how to sell. I know how to make an offer that people will opt into.
Yes. That's essentially all it was. I don't know how to do taxes. I don't know how to do back end. I don't know how to hire and fire. Like, I don't know any of these things. I just know I can make money. And it's one of the reasons, again, I tell you, I mentor people, and I always start off my mentoring in business with this. how are your sales? And I always get the same answer. Well, we haven't really focused on sales because we're focusing on this and this and this.
The product.
And this. Yeah. And I go back and I go, do you realize that the lifeblood of your business is sales? I don't give a shit what anybody else has told you. If you can't sell, you have nothing.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of people in an office going, I don't know, we don't make any money. You know? So yeah, for me, I just learned how to make money and how to sell and how to market. And so that's how I built it. And I tell people all the time, dude, I knew nothing. I was so stupid, but I was willing to step in and say, I do know a few things and I'll figure out the rest. And so we built and we built and we built. And dude, out of every one of those companies that I've built, I've never spent more than $7,500 to start it. Never.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people this too. Like even with our businesses, most of them are, I don't want to say digital because, you know, like a lot of them are service based and other things. It's not like info.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't require startup costs because we don't have to buy like machinery. We don't have to lease new spaces. Like we can sell whatever we're selling all digitally.
Yeah.
And so like the startup cost is super low. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things for entrepreneurs these days is, you know, 20 years ago, it wasn't like that.
No.
Starting a business was a huge risk. There's all this overhead. You're taking a massive chance. And usually you could only sell locally to whatever that business was, just like this, you know, the people that you were starting initially.
Yeah.
Whereas now today, man, getting to the masses is so easy.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing that I tell people all the time is like, what is your excuse today?
Yeah.
If today it's easier in history than it has ever been to start a business and make money, what is your excuse as to why you have not or why you haven't made money?
Yeah.
And, you know, because you always have, well, the economy, and, you know, they always give you the excuses. It's like, no, you didn't hear me. Right now, at this point in history, it is easier to start a business than in any other time ever of the humanity of people. And you're telling me you can't do it. It doesn't make any, there's no excuse. I'm sorry. And that should hit you really hard for those who are listening that are like, well, I've never started a business. I've never really done any of these things. It's like, I get it. But don't tell me you can't, because right now it's easier than it's ever been. So you should probably start looking into how you do that.
Yeah. Well, I also think that there's so many ways to start a business, even if it's not something from scratch today, right? We're living in this world of, people have said it, like the gig economy. You know, it's like, even if you want to like start your own business, you can go be an Uber driver, a Lyft driver. Like you don't have to, you know, work for anybody. But even if you do work for somebody, most people who are trying to like make something happen have some kind of side hustle business that they're doing something.
Yeah.
And maybe it's real estate, maybe it's Lyft or Uber, maybe it's some other thing they're doing. They're creating content. There's all these different options. Maybe they're doing sales on the side. And it's just, there's kind of no excuse at this point for why you can't figure it out.
There really is no excuse. And one of the things that I love is I love to take people who doubt and I love to say, listen, I know all your doubts. I know all your limitations in your mind. Just give me a moment to change that. I have a kid in Limitless Society, which is my mentoring program, that came to me. He was like, listen, this is my last $300. I need help. And I need you to help me start. And I know nothing. I don't know what I'm going to start. And I said, perfect. This is a great opportunity to teach you. And I'm going to use this to teach other people. So I said, listen, let's do this. You get in. So we started talking. We started, you know, whatever. I said, what do you like to do? What do you have? You know, I kind of run down. He goes, I got a truck, man. And I don't know what I like to do. I said, cool. Perfect. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you a whole list of things. I need you to go get spray paint and stencils. And then I need you to go get the local sports teams in a stencil. And he was like, okay. Didn't have an idea what I was telling him to do. I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go knock doors. And when you knock on the door, you're going to say, hey, I would love to spray paint your address on the sidewalk or on the curb. And who's your favorite team? Utah, BYU, you know, whoever. Yeah. Oh, well, this is my team. Cool. For $50, I would spray paint that for you. Right? Yeah. He goes, okay. He comes back to me 2 weeks later. He goes, dude, I've made $13,000. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you have a business. And if you bust your ass and you start paying people, think about how big you could scale this. Like, go find a kid who will knock doors for $15 an hour that will spray paint and have him collecting $50 an hour.
Yeah.
So, dude, he did. He hired one kid out of high school. And all of a sudden he's like, dude, now I did 22 grand this month and I only worked like 4 days out of the week.
Yeah.
The point being is I was like, listen, we started something from nothing and now you're richer than 99.9% of the world, because we all know that if you make more than 150K, you're top tier.
Yeah.
And this is an 18-year-old that's going to see 20 grand a month out of spray painting addresses on curbs.
Yeah.
If he can do it, why can't you?
Right.
You know? And so it's my favorite thing. Right now in history is the easiest time to make money and be successful. So what is your excuse? And as soon as you realize you don't have one, then it's time to go to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. No, and I give kudos to the kid too, because obviously he understood he needed a mentor, and he took what you said, didn't really question it, just did it. And then he got the results. And, you know, I know for me, when I was starting my entrepreneur career, my first version of that was flipping couches.
Yes.
And, you know, with that, nobody told me to do it. It was just this thing like you looking at the world as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I just bought this couch for, you know, $100. I guarantee I could sell this thing for like $400 or $500.
Yeah.
And it just clicked. I'm like, why don't I just do that?
Yeah.
Did it, and you know, it was the first time I was ever making, in my mind, real money.
Yeah.
You know, I built it up to making $8 grand a month.
Crazy.
And I was like, this is easy, because I was working like 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, I hired a guy, said, hey, you start delivering and picking up for me, because I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was how my entrepreneur career started.
What was the biggest profit on a couch?
At that time, maybe like $700-800.
Which is a ton of money to make when you're brand new and you're like, dude, most people work a whole week for $700.
Yeah.
And you did it in one deal.
One deal.
And it sparked something in you that you can never go back to.
No. And it led me to the next big thing and the next big thing, because it was like, all right, I get that. What if I flipped bigger things?
Yeah.
Like houses.
Yeah.
So we start flipping houses, and then you start making 20 grand, 30 grand. And you're like, that's like 4 months of flipping couches. This is great. Yeah. And so you do that. And then, you know, you scale up to the next thing, and you throw big events and you do education. You're like, wow, you know, I just made what I made flipping a house in a day of education.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is crazy. And then you go to the next thing.
Yep.
And, you know, I see these guys who can make $1 million in a day.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, you know, it's not that I can't do it. I just am not currently in the right industry or, you know, vehicle that would make that happen. But I know it can be done.
Yeah. You know what? I think that the last piece you said is what most people should really cling to. And it was, if I'm not doing it, maybe I'm not currently in the right vehicle. Mm-hmm. You know, most people try something and they fail and they go, I can't do it. when in reality, the difference between you and I and somebody else is, instead of seeing a block, we just saw a hurdle.
Yeah.
And we realized to get over the hurdle, we do need a different vehicle. And dude, I've done it. I've had businesses. I've never had a business fail, quote unquote fail. I haven't. I've always made money in all my businesses. But some have been stupid successful and some have just barely made some money.
Yeah.
Right. So I realized quickly, like, this isn't the vehicle that I want to use. And I think that that's a big difference and common denominator for people who are successful in the entrepreneurial space. It's that I'm not saying I can't do it. Yeah. I'm just saying I can't do it in this vehicle. So I'm going to do it in a different and a different and a different. And that's what pivoting is, right?
Exactly.
You get in and you go, dude, like flipping couches is going to make me some money.
Yep.
But a different vehicle is going to make me a lot more money. And that's where I want to put my time.
Exactly.
But the problem is that most people that jump into the 9 to 5, they just get stuck making enough. And they never really want to roll to the next thing. And in their mind, what holds them back is that, well, I'm going to get a raise one day. I'm going to ask for a raise. I'll make a little bit more money. I make 80K this year. Next year, I'll make 100. And then when in reality, they should be doing exactly what you did, which was, I made 8K a month flipping couches. Well, guess what? It's time to step my game up, and I'm going to make 800K a day flipping $1 million homes or whatever that is. And then you roll to that. Yeah. And that's a big difference, is it's all about that progression and that journey, and most people don't take it.
No, they don't. And one thing I'll say too, I'd love to get your perspective on this, is there's a lot of people who give advice who say, hey, you got to focus on one thing. And, you know, as a guy who has lots of businesses in different industries, myself too, what's your opinion on it?
Man, that's a really good question. And I hope that you're I hope you're willing to listen to this answer.
I'll give you my perspective after.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to influence you.
Yeah, so I would tell you, yes, you should focus on one thing.
Okay.
And this is what you should focus on. You should focus on savagely becoming the greatest version of yourself. If you focus on your personal development, and I mean everything, your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, your development in that, if you focus on just developing you, every single thing in your life becomes more successful. I tell people this all the time. The greatest version of you is crazy, crazy rich, crazy successful, crazy happy, with unbelievable experiences and relationships. So now, the reason I say some people may not like that answer is because it's a very general, right? Like, I'm asking what should I focus on specifically? And again, I'll revert them back to this. You should focus savagely on yourself and developing yourself, and every single thing begins to fall into place, and the success that you seek just begins to happen.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I mean, with the wealthy way, that is the message of it, right? Because so many entrepreneurs, as you know, are just focused on business. They're like, look, I got to get rid of everything else in my life to make this work. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. If you're fat and out of shape, your business ain't going to be as successful. Also, you are not going to be happy. If your faith is weak or non-existent, you're going to have a void in your life, no matter how well your business does. If your relationships suck, your marriage is a mess, you don't get to see your kids, none of it matters. So to your point, it's 100% true. You have to get everything in line in order for the business to be successful. And if those things are in line, I 1000% agree. Business becomes easy.
Absolutely. And then, dude, you can do 100 different things, because I'm like you, man. I like to do a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what I focus on? Me. One of the first questions I ask when I mentor people, business owners specifically, that think, oh, hey, I'm paying to get with Keaton to help my business. The first question I ask is, how's your marriage?
Yep.
And they go, they get all weird. Like, wait, you're going to ask me about my marriage? I want to know how to make more money. And then the second follow-up is, let me tell you something. You will never be more successful in life than you are first in your marriage. You'll never be successful more in your business than you are in your marriage. So if your marriage is a 6, your business will be a 6. If your marriage is a 10, your business is going to be a 10. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if I treat my spouse a certain way, if I put in energy a certain way, if I don't respect a certain way, if I don't do the work a certain way, guess what? My marriage doesn't work right, and I do the same shit in my business.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, I go back to that, like, yeah, dude, you should focus on yourself. And focusing on yourself means, well, how are my relationships? And why are they the way they are? Is it because of somebody else, or is it because of me? You know, everybody knows the Stoic sayings and Stoicism, right? Like, it's all about internal work, right? The biggest thing that I love about the way of the Stoic is it's all what you have the ability to control and letting go of what you don't. And if I can get someone to understand that their whole life is the sum total of them and their choices, I can get them to change them and their choices.
Yeah.
But you have to revert them back to, hey, man, I know this is going to be really hard for you, but your business sucks because your marriage sucks right now. Your marriage sucks because of who you are and what you do.
You're selfish.
And dude, it's
you're
all,
whatever.
Exactly. And it's all on you.
Yep.
So now I'm this guy that's like, let me help you coach and make more money. And the first thing we talk about is marriage, or your relationship with your kids, or your friendships, or your health, physical, mental. And then I go within 5 minutes, oh shit, that's why you're where you're at. It's very simple to see. You're fat? Oh yeah, I can tell exactly why your marriage sucks, why your kids don't like you, why your business isn't making any money. And then, you do get those people that are like, well, no, but how do I market better? I'm like, okay, man, I can tell that this isn't going to help.
We're going in circles.
Yeah, until you can look in the mirror and say, hey, you're the reason that I'm successful, or you're the reason that I'm failing, plain and simple. There's nothing else. There's no outside influence. There's no outside control. You are the reason. If you can do that, dude, everything becomes successful.
I like how passionate you are about it, because we believe the same thing, but I'm not as, I guess, hard on people, or as, I don't want to say passionate, because I obviously believe it, but I tell them that, and then, I'm like, okay, so go do it. All right, now let's talk about the business side.
Yeah.
Whereas I agree with your point of like, we're not even going to talk about this, like,
yeah,
until we get this addressed first, this is irrelevant.
Yeah.
because it's true. I mean,
Dude,
like it doesn't matter.
And dude, and you can see really, really fast with people, somebody who is deflecting
Yeah.
and someone who is internalizing, right?
Yeah.
When I sit down with you and I say, hey man, tell me, like right now, tell me, how is your marriage? How do your kids see you? It's really fun to do this exercise where I ask fathers, I say, hey, if I pulled your kids aside and I asked them who you were and what they think about you, what would you say? And most of the time they usually end up in tears and they're like, you know what, man, I don't think my kids would say a lot of good things about me because I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm not leading them. I'm not loving them enough. I'm not showing them this life. And all of a sudden this realization opens up in their eyes and they're like, holy shit, dude, I'm not a good father.
Yeah.
And I'm not a good father, which means I'm not a good leader, which means I can't run my business, and I can't run my business until I go back to those things. So you're right. Dude, we'll talk about business in a few weeks. Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
Stop looking at, oh, I'm fat and I'm out of shape and I'm angry and I'm depressed, but how can you help me in my business?
Yeah.
That's the biggest piece, dude. Let's revert it back. Let me put a mirror in front of you. And then I'm going to beg you to be honest with that mirror. And then we're going to find the solutions that you want.
I love it because I think so many people tell themselves a lie of like, oh, well, yeah, I'm doing it for my kids now.
Yeah.
They don't get it, but like, that's why I'm doing this right now. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Your kids are only kids once. So at the end of the day, this is their biggest development period. You know, by the time they're 18, they're gone.
For sure.
And you missed out.
For sure.
And you know, fatherhood, to even go in a deeper topic of it, is the main reason of why kids turn out the way they do,
100%.
right? Like kids who grow up without fathers are just, they have worse lives. Like They end up in trouble.
Statistically,
but just common sense.
Yeah.
If you don't have a dad, common sense,
yeah,
you're going to have a tough time. And not having a dad could be like literally your dad's just not around, period. Or your dad is there, but he's not, right? And so, you know, I just look at even like the lineage of my parents. You know, my dad grew up in the Philippines and he had 12 brothers and sisters. So big family, right?
Yeah.
And his dad, my grandpa, was a very successful entrepreneur in the Philippines, killing it. And
which is rare, right?
Very rare. And my dad would tell me the story when I was young. He goes, Ryan, I saw my dad twice a year. And he would come and go school shopping with us before school. And then he would come see us at like Christmas or something. And that was it. The rest of the time he was out in the Philippines, like doing whatever, right? And he's like, it was just, I grew up without a dad. Yeah. And he's like, that really scarred me. And so I didn't want that for you because I knew that wasn't the right way to do it. And so for me, you know, he raised me in a completely different way. He was always there for me, taking me to baseball games, taking me to school, you know, everything.
Yeah.
You know, and what I realized was how much that impacted me today with like this message I have.
Yeah.
Because it just was normal to me. I'm like, well, yeah, of course your dad should always be there for you and everything you're doing. And that's how I treat my kids. But it didn't dawn on me until like, that's only normal to me because that's how he treated me.
Yeah.
But for many people, they grow up in a broken household where their dad isn't that way, or they don't have a dad. And they're like, well, I grew up this way. I'm successful. My kids will figure it out. And so, yeah, it's a tough thing, man, because people just don't realize how important it is. And, you know, majority of people who watch this show are men.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I really want the men to understand you're not doing your kids any favors by not being there.
You know, dude, and so I do this exercise, and again, for those guys that are like listening to this, I want them to do this, and even you to do this. So think about, as a father or as an individual, forget being a father for a minute.
By the way, tell people how many kids you have and what they are.
So I have, right now I have 4 daughters and a 5th daughter on the way. So I don't have any boys. So if you're wondering if I have advice for you as a father of a boy, I don't, because I don't have them.
But how many are you going to try for?
We're going to go to 100 if I have to. I told my wife, I'm like, listen, I have to have a boy. We're not adopting. Like, we're going to have a boy. I have to have a son, plain and simple, you know? But you know, this is why I'm so adamant and so passionate about this exact topic. And it's this reason. If you as an individual could just for a minute be really, really honest with yourself, think about the things you struggle with. Think about your addictions, your weaknesses, your failures. Think about all of those things. And for most people, if they're being honest, they're going to list off some things, right?
Yep.
And I'll even be as vulnerable to tell you what mine are. Like, dude, I struggle with being in good shape because I always am hungry and I always want to eat like shit, right? I wouldn't say it's an addiction, but I'll tell you it's a very, very big weakness for me, right? I also struggle with pride. I struggle with anger. I struggle with being impatient, okay? Now, those are just some simple ones.
Yeah.
Some of your listeners are going, well, shit, dude, I struggle with alcoholism.
Yeah.
I struggle with addiction to porn.
Yep.
I struggle with addiction of not feeling enough.
Yep.
I don't feel good. I don't have self-worth. I have no confidence. Like the list goes on and on and on, right?
Right.
Well, then let me ask you this question. If you had the choice to fight those and conquer those, or pass them down to your children, what is your choice? And of course, most people, I hope all people go, well, I don't want to pass down to my children.
Yeah.
But the reality that we don't understand sometimes is that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do. My bad attitude, my pride, my impatience, my addiction to food. Guess what? If I don't battle that in this life, I pass that down to my children. So again, you talk about people who don't have fathers and why the world struggles. Well, guess what? The shit ain't passed down by just being around someone. It's passed down in your DNA.
Yeah.
So you have these children who have DNA passed down to them from their fathers and their mothers of addiction, of issues, of weaknesses, of failures.
Yeah.
And because their dad wasn't there to fix it himself and work on himself and do those things, it gets passed down to them.
Yeah.
So then you as a parent get the choice right now in your life to say something simple, and that's this. If I don't work on this, then they're going to have to work on this.
Right.
If I don't battle these struggles, then they're going to have to battle these struggles. And I don't want that. I don't want my daughters to struggle in confidence. So you know what I have to do? I have to be the most confident motherfucker in the world because I want to pass that to them. I don't want to struggle with being obese, so I must battle that. And when my children are raised and they see a father who takes care of his health, who eats healthy, who goes to the gym, guess what? That's what I get to pass to them. So when you talk about this, like, well, this father thing, this parent thing is really important, and I struggle with it, then this is the way you should break it down.
Yeah.
You should find your weaknesses, you should find your addictions, and you should work on them. Again, which is what we've talked about this whole thing is it goes back to you, right?
Yeah.
Like it reverts back to you. And what's probably cool as shit is your grandfather had an addiction to work.
Yeah.
Your father decided that he was not going to have that addiction, and he probably had to work on it because he probably wanted to go out and work.
He was an entrepreneur too.
But instead, he did what he needed to do to become who he was. And then guess what he did? He gave birth to somebody who's making tons of money, who has tons of time for his children. And instead of passing that to you, he worked on it and he broke it. And then he handed you something much better.
Yeah.
And so now you're here because of the work he did.
And I'll add to that, you know, he was an entrepreneur, which at that, you know, growing up, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was a baseball player, so that's all I was focused on. But one thing I noticed from him and my mom, who was a realtor, so she was an entrepreneur as well, was that my parents were able to come with me to games and travel and do these things. Like they were never bound by a 9 to 5. And I saw a lot of my teammates' parents like, no, we can't go. Like I got to work. We have the job. We have this. And so that always stuck out to me, how important freedom was to do the things that are important to you. And, you know, for them, it was important to go to these baseball tournaments and have family vacations and everything else. And, you know, eventually I also saw the other side of that when it doesn't work. And so like for even them, you know, the crash destroyed them. They both lost all their businesses. They never really recovered. And, you know, addiction runs in my family too. You know, my grandfather, my mom, you know, people in her family, they all have gambling addictions here in Vegas, right? Like surprise. Alcohol has never been an issue in our family. Like my dad doesn't drink, my mom doesn't drink, no one drinks. Drugs never were an issue. So like even for me, that stuff was never even on the table. I'm just like, what are you talking about? I still have never done like a drug in my life. I've never smoked weed. I've never done any of these party drugs or anything. Only drugs I'm on now are freaking getting swole type drugs. But
TRT, baby.
yeah. So anyways, long story short, addiction does run in the family, and I'm aware of that. Like even for me, I had to struggle with a porn addiction for a long time before I finally broke the cycle. And I'm also very aware that that gets passed down, to your point of like, hey, if I struggle with these things, guess what? Like my kids are watching me.
Yes.
You know, dude, it's super funny. This morning, my daughter, she's 3. Her name's Olivia. She's just like so full of like personality. But, you know, I walked in with those cookies. Remember? I actually asked you if you wanted a cookie. I'm glad you turned it down. Now that we're talking about this, you lived up to it. But anyways, I was eating a cookie for breakfast. Embarrassed to admit this, but I was drinking a protein shake and eating a cookie. And my daughter goes, "No, Dada." And I was like, "What are you telling me no for? Like, what do you, what are you talking about? No cookie." And I was like, how do you know a cookie's not good? So funny, dude.
I love it. But dude, that's what you pass down. And what's so cool, you talk about like, you're vulnerable enough to say like, hey, I had an addiction to porn. Dude, you're right. That's in your DNA. And if you didn't conquer it, you're not going to be able to help your children conquer the same issues.
Right.
And dude, how beautiful is it of you as a father that you're willing to go to battle with yourself to beat this so that your children don't have to.
Right.
And if they do, even better, because you know how to beat it and you know how to help them, which is the whole purpose of life, is that our generations as they go should be getting better.
Yep.
And there's no way to do that if you don't make the decision today that everything I struggle with, everything that has been passed down to me generationally is going to stop with me.
Yep.
Because I don't want to pass it to them.
100%.
I want to pass confidence to my children. I want to pass love and power and patience. You know, I'm a huge fan of thinking about Christ-like attributes. Who was Christ and what were his attributes? I want to pass those attributes down to my children, not the things I've struggled with that have plagued me, my addictions, my failures. I want to pass something better to them. And the only way to do that isn't by word, it's by deed. And your children, they're not there if you're struggling through porn, but they sure as shit can see through your actions that you no longer have that addiction.
Right.
And that's a big deal, dude.
Yep. No, 1,000%. And even for me, and I know this is going to be different for everyone, but, you know, in regards to that addiction, I finally conquered it before I had kids, you know, but it was something that I struggled with. It's funny because you would know this. When you're single, you're like, all right, cool, whatever, you know, I'm going to get over this once I get married and freaking just having sex all the time. And this is great. And then you get married and you're like, this is great. And then you start falling back into your old habits. And you're like, I thought being married was going to solve this. It does not.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's it's funny too. And this is a completely different principle, but like everybody thinks that marriage is a solution to a lot of things.
Yeah.
So they drag all their problems and say, oh, good, I'm at the door of marriage. So it all goes away.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
So again, you go back and you go, well, maybe there's a better principle to teach here. Maybe I should work on myself before I get there, especially for people who struggle and they're like, well, I think marriage will fix it. No. Marriage intensifies your problems. It makes it much, much worse. So if you roll into
and you inherit their problems.
Oh yeah. And then it's a whole whirlwind. So again, all the way back, circling all the way back, it's like, dude, you want to become better? You should be working on you.
Yeah.
And forget trying to find a solution outside of yourself. Like, oh, well, my marriage will fix it.
Yeah.
It didn't. It doesn't.
100%. Well, I mean, okay, 30 minutes later, after asking the original question, should you focus on one thing? I agree with the answer. Obviously, we talked about it for 30 minutes. But let's say somebody is working on themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, all right, we got past step 1. You know, I'm working on myself. I'm working on these addictions. I'm working on getting in shape. I'm working on all these things. Now let's talk about the business, because that part is, you know, we're doing everything we can over here. In business, what's your take on, you know, should you be doing one thing? Should you have multiple things going on? What do you think?
So as someone who has done both, I call it the shotgun approach, right? Where you shoot a shotgun and 100 BBs come out and you hope that one of those BBs hits.
Yeah.
Right? I have probably a mixed feeling. I think that you should focus on one thing until it becomes good. I do agree with that. But I also know that a lot of the things I have done in my life as a shotgun approach has taught me so many things. One of the things I think us as humans do is we fail to do. Like, you know, you talk about, well, should I start this business, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm on the completely other end of the spectrum. I'm like, well, how many businesses am I going to start today? You know? And so I don't necessarily think that that's the right route. But if I had my choice to say, I'm thinking about starting a business and in the next 6 months I might start a business, or, hey man, you should start 50 businesses today, I would take the all day 50 businesses.
Yeah.
Again, I don't necessarily think that that's the best route, but if that's my choice, that's what I choose. So now if you go back to the original question.
What's the optimal route in between?
The optimal route is to find something that you're willing to put sweat and time and energy and passion into. I know this because I have ADHD. If I focus,
I can tell.
Yeah, if I focus on one thing and I put my time and my energy into it, it becomes successful. One thing.
Would you say right now that one thing is the Limitless Arena?
Well, that's a part of it, but it's Limitless Society, which we've talked about before. Yeah. I still have multiple
It's all part
companies.
of the. It's all part of the
For
same
sure.
thing.
I have multiple companies and I have CEOs in every one of my companies. I dedicate about an hour a week to everything else.
Yeah.
And I dedicate about 65 hours a week to Limitless Society.
Got it.
And Limitless Society is growing like crazy because I'm willing to put all of my time and energy and love and passion into it.
Yeah.
I still have other things and I can probably I am starting other businesses, but nothing is going to get my time and my attention like Limitless Society. And I have become successful when I strap down and do one thing and put time and energy into one thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with my marriage, with my children. Like, okay, I need to get better at my marriage. I can't focus on 15 things right now. I need to focus on building this at the moment. And not that you're not always building, but I've realized in my ADHD that for me to truly become successful, I must find something and become a sniper.
Yeah.
I can't be a shotgun.
Yeah.
And if I become a sniper, I always hit my target.
So let me give you my perspective. It kind of is a mix of what you've said. So I think when you're first starting out, you need to focus on one thing at a time. Now, to your point of, hey, maybe this vehicle's not working, there is a certain point where you got to be like, hey, this ain't it, right? And let's try something new. You know, I remember I was going to school to be an EMT because I thought I was going to be a firefighter. And I did it for a semester. I graduated. And I was like, this ain't it. Yeah. You know, I didn't pursue it anymore. And so I went to the next thing and the next thing, right? And then when I found something that worked, like couch flipping, I went all in. I'm like, yo, let's just run this thing up as best as we can. I'm not worried about any of this other stuff, right? Then I kind of capped out at it. And I'm like, this is it. This is kind of what it is if I just want to stay at this level. So I said, what's next? And so I get into house flipping. Obviously it worked. And all I did was that for the next probably 5 years. I didn't worry about social media or any of these other things. And also social media wasn't really what it is today, where it's like, well, it's a pretty important thing everyone should be doing, right? Especially for any business. Any business should be utilizing social media for business. But nonetheless, what I will say is, yes, one thing is good when you're trying to build something and develop one skill that makes you money. But as time goes on, maybe, you know, you make $1 million. At that point, this is where my opinion starts to vary, is that, yes, you could definitely just keep refining and getting better at that. Or you can start exploring and being curious about other things and with your new skills.
You can find something else that makes you more money and more money.
More, or to your point, this thing is going and it's good, and now I'm going to put somebody in charge of this. Yeah. And hopefully it still continues to grow, but now my attention is on this thing, right? And I'll say, for me, I feel like at 34 years old, I've had a lot of experiences in so many things that very few have. You know, when I can say that, yeah, you know, I played pro baseball for all these years. I flipped all these houses. I've raised all this money. You know, we went into the tax space. I understand that space. We throw crazy events. We're in education. We're doing social media. We're doing editing. You know, I'm playing golf now. We're looking at doing developments. You know, all of those things on their own, I could just focus on one of them and like really try to scale it to the moon. And many people would tell me that. They'd say, Ryan, dude, you're a real estate guy. You should just do real estate and just really scale that skill to the moon. But two things are, to me, wrong with that. One is I'm more than just a real estate guy in my mind. I'm like, dude, a lot of things, you know, I've succeeded at in my life, you know, and I'm curious and I want to know what I'm fully capable of. And two, that'd be boring. Like, I just don't want to do one thing.
For sure.
It's just boring to me.
Yeah.
And there are people who like boring. They're like, I just want to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, dude, like, I'm going to go start this golf course thing. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do that. And, you know, these things will continue to run. Like, it's not like they just stop.
Yeah.
Let's get operators. And then to your point too, you know, the ones that no longer fit my new vision or the current level I'm at, you know, we got to get rid of those.
Absolutely. I think I love the way you put that, because that's really like in even the simplest text, it's, yeah, you should focus on one thing until it becomes profitable and then move to the next and move to the next and move to the next. And, you know, again, some people would argue, well, like if it became profitable, just keep focusing on it. But I'm like you, dude, that's boring as shit. Dude, at some point I'm going to own a surf company, and then I'm going to own a fireplace company, and then I'm going to own a building, and I'm going to own a golf course, and I'm going to be all over the place because that's what I want to do. But like you said, you take the shotgun approach, you hit the target, and you go, all right, I need to aim for that, and I need to become good at that one thing. And then when it becomes good and self-sustaining, right? Yeah. You hire an infrastructure, you get your CEO, you go, cool, man, let's go to the next one.
Yeah. But the point that I want to make to people too is, yeah, it's fun doing different things. But the main thing that has happened from this that I believe is going to benefit me in the long run is that my skill set is so different than anyone else's. You know, how many people can say they can do sports at a high level, marketing, social media, real estate, you know, all these different things at an extremely high level? It just, maybe on one hand, I can maybe find one other person.
Yeah.
So it's not to just be like, oh, well, that makes me cool. It's more like, hey, every time I now jump into a new endeavor, I have experience from all these different things I'm pulling from. I'm not just pulling from the real estate world where, you know, you only do things in this particular way. Yeah. I'm not just pulling from, you know, the education space where you only do things this way. I'm able to now pull from all these vast different experiences, and also too, a vast number of relationships now, because there are people who only play in each of these fields.
Yeah.
And so now I can tap into all these people and say, hey, you want to come speak at WealthCon? Hey, you know, I actually have this, we're buying a SaaS company, and I just had, you know, Dan Martell and Neil Patel. Can you help me out here? And it just makes you that much more, it's kind of like freaking being, I don't know, freaking Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. It's like that dude has every skill you could imagine, you know?
Yeah.
It's not that he's just, oh, I only do this.
Yeah. No, dude, I agree. And I think the greatest thing listening to you is like watching somebody who just develops their skills and how good you become at each one of those. You know, like, dude, you didn't know 10 years ago you were going to be doing golf course stuff.
No.
You had no idea that in 10 years you were going to be one of the greatest real estate guys or educational guys, but you did it. You became good at it, you modified and refined your skills at it, and then you've become really, really successful at it. And truthfully, I honestly think now that the purpose of life is much, much more simple. It's just progress.
Yeah.
And how do I progress in things that I'm not even willing to start? And I think that that's the thing, like even listening to you, dude, such a beautiful story. Like you're some kid that was a baseball guy, and now look, in every aspect that he started doing things, he's crushing. And that never would have been a thing if you would have continued down the course. And I don't mean to say this in a rude way. You would continue down the course in baseball, dude. You could still be trying to do baseball right now,
100%,
in a D league or whatever.
Yep. And I have a lot of friends who do that.
Yeah. And again, I'm not hitting on that.
Yeah.
But dude, where they are and where you are is much different, because you were at some point like, all right, man, I kind of hit my thing and I hit my stride and I did my thing, and now I'm ready to can be a real estate guy. Yeah, or flip, whatever.
Yeah, right.
And that is so cool when you look at that. And the truth is that not to come at you, but like, dude, you're no different than anybody else. And everybody has the same potential and capabilities that you do.
I agree.
And if you can do that, and I can do that, I mean, listen, we'll probably be the first people to tell you how inadequate we are. If we can do it, then so can everybody else.
But I think the difference is you and I both have the vision. And maybe I don't know the best way to put this. Maybe we're too dumb for our own good to know like what we're getting into. And like because I've said that before, like I'll jump into something just completely freaking ready to roll about it. And then, you get into it and you're like, oh crap, there's like this.
This is way bigger than I thought it was.
I got to solve this problem now and that problem now. And then like a year later you look at it and you say, dude, if I would have known that going into it, no way.
There's no way. Dude, I do that all the time. Some of my mentorees have coined my phrase as stupid confidence.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, dude.
You got to be naive.
I'm so stupid that I'm just like, yeah, man, I'll do it. Let's do it. I mean, same thing with this event. It's like, wait, you've never really done an event over 1,000 people. You've been in this coaching, educational, mentor space for a year. And now you're telling me you rented the biggest arena in Utah and you're going to fill 10,000 seats? It's like, most people are like, as a realist, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
And maybe I am. Maybe there won't be. But what I do know is that I'm willing to take that shot. And I do want to circle around back to one thing that you said. And I believe that it's 3 pieces to be successful. We started this conversation out as, you must be a dreamer.
Yeah.
And then you said, but you and I have a vision. So you must dream first, and then you must catch the vision of your dream. And then the last thing that I would say, and again, there's these 3 pieces, it's that we executed on the vision.
Yeah.
Execution is a huge piece. Everybody starts to dream, and then they lose somewhere the vision. And then once those have lost the vision, they definitely don't execute.
Yeah.
But that's what we've done, and we've done it in stupid confidence. We dream it, we have the vision set out, and then we execute on whatever we have to execute on to make that become a reality. And I think that that's a big piece that people should really understand. I'm not telling you to be a dreamer just for fun. I'm telling you that it first starts as dreaming, and then from there you catch the vision, and then from the vision you see the execution and you execute. And that's what you've done your whole life, dude. At one point your dream was to become a pro baseball player.
Yep.
And then as you got close, you started to actually see the vision of you becoming a pro baseball player, and then you executed savagely on what it took to become that player.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done in every single aspect of your life. And that's why you're successful. It's those 3 pieces of what it takes to get there.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I don't even have anything to add to that, because it's true. Like, you get the vision, then you just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And you're going to fail, you're going to struggle, and it's going to lead to success. Or even if you fail and it doesn't work, it's a lesson for the next thing you try, because you're going to just keep trying. So speaking of that, you started off with, you founded 35 businesses. I think you told me you have 6 that you're really focused on now at this point. What are some examples of ones, so, people understand that, you went in, because you go into all of them guns blazing.
Oh, for sure.
You're like, this is going to crush.
For sure.
What are some ones that didn't go as planned?
I started actually talking about TRT 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I started a TRT company. We called it Mana Health, and it worked incredible, right? Because at that time, COVID was allowing what's called telehealth,
Yep.
where you could do everything from the phone, right?
Yep.
So we started this company. It was all based around telehealth. Well, guess what? Now that COVID's gone, because everybody knows it was bullshit, they are now changing the rules again. And they're saying, listen, you can't meet with a doctor over the phone. You need to do stuff in person. So we realized that after we started the TRT telehealth company, and it was like, oh shit, dude, this is not what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
We started crushing, and then it was like, oh shit, they're going to change the laws about telehealth. So that was one of them. I have a lot of companies that I really don't want to say I don't have any interest in anymore, but they just make me money like clockwork, and I don't care to build them or grow them. They're just there.
Yeah.
And those companies, they make money and they're successful and they have CEOs in them and they essentially do what they're supposed to do, but it doesn't excite me and I have no passion about it. So it's like, all right, man, I got one call with the CEO this week. If there's any issues, we'll deal with it. Outside of that, I don't ever want to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I've realized in that is like when I start companies now, from here on out, I want to make sure that I can be passionate about them. Because if not, dude, it just becomes something that's like, well, I'm doing this to make money. And I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. You were telling me, I don't know if you can talk about it, but you got equity in a franchise. Mm-hmm. And what excites you about that?
You know, you're speaking of Dirty Dough.
Yeah.
Dirty Dough cookies. I bought in, and essentially what excited me was actually the simplicity of it. So I've seen Crumble and Crumble's model. I do like Crumble's model, but the problem is when you roll into a cookie store like Crumble, there's 6 to 7 employees there. There's people cooking the cookies, baking, prepping, selling. It's this whole thing. And I know one thing really well as a business owner. The least amount of employees you have, the better, right? I mean, every entrepreneur knows that.
Yeah.
If I have less employees, my life is better.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I was like, ugh, I don't like this model. I would never do something like that. But then Dirty Dough started, and the owner that came to me was like, hey, I want to do stuff with you. I would love to have you come in, yada, yada, yada. Well, I looked at it for a year, and then when they started opening stores in Utah, I went and I was like, why is there only one person here working? So I roll into this cookie store of delicious cookies, and I'm like, why is there one person working? Well, I called him and I was like, what is the model here? And he said, well, instead of doing everything in each store, we only have one facility that does everything, and then we ship it to the store like clockwork.
Yeah, it's ready.
So we don't need chefs. We don't need preppers. We need 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So I saw the franchise model. I was like, dude, this is simple. I can give this to my 13-year-old daughter and she can make this business successful. So I was like, I'm buying in and I'm going to get everybody to buy a Dirty Dough because this franchise model is as simplistic as can be. Now, I'm not going to tell you you're going to make millions of dollars. What I am going to tell you is like clockwork, you'll make a few $100,000, and that's the way a franchise should be. It should be clockwork. That's what you're paying for. So that's why we did it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a much simpler model than, you know, a McDonald's or something where,
oh yeah,
man, that's a lot of people running a McDonald's.
A ton, dude.
Yeah.
And McDonald's program, same thing. Like theirs is clockwork. They know exactly how much they make to the T.
Yeah.
But it's a huge headache for the franchise owner because he's in there all the time dealing with employees. And if you can imagine, dude, McDonald's employees, I guarantee you are not easy to manage. There's no way.
No.
That's the bottom of minimum wage. Like those people are hard to manage. They just are. So you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to make $250,000 a year off of my McDonald's franchise. But I'm going to be working my ass off for that $250K.
Yeah.
You know? So again, that's why I reverted back to this for Dirty Dough. I was like, this franchise model just makes sense.
Yeah. Tell me about your helicopter, dude, because you'll be posting on social media. Your house is like, you have a castle on a mountain and you have a helicopter pad and like you're doing all this crazy stuff.
You know, that's one of the reasons why my message always is to dream, is because I think of something and it gets stuck in my head and I dream of it until I execute it. And about 4 years ago, I was like, I'm going to build a castle on a mountain. That's what I want to do. I want to be on a mountain because I love views, right? Yep. And in Utah, most people know Utah has the Rocky Mountains. Like we have big Wasatch Front mountains. So 4 years ago, I was like, I'm going to build a house up there and I'm going to live and do what I want. So I built my house against every odd, even the city. The city still doesn't like me.
Why?
Because essentially I said, I want to build my house up there, and they said, you can't. And I said, well, I appreciate your opinion, but it's my property. So I actually started building my house without having any type of approval from the city. Like I started digging out the mountain before they allowed me. I started laying foundations before they even gave me a certificate to have, because I was like, I'm going to do this. Whether you guys want to or not, I will fight you for the next 10 years.
Why would they not let you build on your property?
I've realized that my city, Farmington, Utah, is filled with a bunch of haters that are, and I will say this publicly.
Yeah.
It's filled with a bunch of men that are do nothing.
Yeah.
Like they're 9-to-5ers who make 40 to 50K a year that do not like the idea of somebody coming in and being able to do whatever they want to do. So I bought 10 acres or 9 acres and I said, I want to build my house here. And they were like, no, you can't. That's too high on your property. I thought, wait a second, you're going to tell me I can't build high enough on my property? And when you come out to my house, you'll see. So there's a street at the bottom, and then my house is about 400 yards up the mountain. Okay. They want to build my house on the street. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'll build a driveway up to it. They were like, no, it's too high. You got to bring it down 200 feet. And I was like, no, I don't want to. There's no you can't tell me. You don't get to tell me. And they, yes, we do. We control everything. Well, you're going to find out you don't. So, dude, we started digging. I started digging and it was like, I don't give a shit where they told me that it's plotted to go. So,
as a real estate guy, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, dude. It was a nightmare. As a real estate guy. So, dude, I started digging and they had plans and they were like, well, we're not going to approve them. I said, cool, thanks. I'm digging. I don't give a shit. So, dude, I had foundation poured. And you know this, when you go to get your home approved, it usually takes 2 to 5 days. It took them 8 weeks. 8 weeks, dude. My foundation was done. And they were fighting me back and forth. I said, you guys can either fight me in court or you can approve it because I'm not letting go of this dream. I'm just not. I want my house up there. I don't want it right here. And of course, the city, dude, the city was just a nightmare. I don't like very many people at the city because they just made my life a living hell. So I built the house. And it's incredible. You know, for those of you who follow me, you see my house on social media. It's my masterpiece because it's something that I wanted to build and I built it against all odds.
How'd you get a helicopter pad approved? Or is it even approved?
It's not approved. Not
okay,
even close
so you just do it.
Yeah, I just do stuff. So the front of my yard is pretty much about an acre. And I literally put a helipad at the end of my yard because it's on the mountain, right? And it's like perched up and you get to come in and fly. Dude, I don't have my helicopter license. Like people are like, wait, you have a helicopter? You don't have your license? I'm like, no. A year ago, I was like, you know what? It's my dream to have a helicopter. I flew in one and I'm like, I love this. I want one. So I bought one. Not the best decision ever, but I bought one. And I built a helipad in my front yard. And so now, like, my life consists of, oh, hey, let's go up to the top of the mountain today and have a picnic with my daughters. Like, land the heli at the house, load it up, let's go up to the top of the mountain. And that's what I do.
Oh, so you're not even at the top.
No. I'm at the so where we're at is the city's at about 4,500 feet elevation. Yeah. The top of the mountain's 10,000, and I'm at about like 6.
Okay,
5 or 6. I'm midway. I'm the highest in the city, but I'm midway up the mountain, right? And so I literally am just like, well, I'm gonna buy a helicopter, do whatever I want with that helicopter, and.
So do you fly it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm not flying with you.
No.
I'll sit in it.
I don't fly without my pilot.
Okay.
So there's dual controls, right?
Uh-huh.
So I fly 100% now. I fly. And if there's ever a place where I get into a situation, he takes over. I never fly alone. That's not a thing, right? But I fly because I have 250 hours now in it. Like I fly.
Why not just get your license?
Honestly, it's a time thing. It takes about 6 months of real hard studying and papers and homework. And I've never been that guy. Like I barely graduated high school. I didn't really do anything.
How many fines do you get from the city?
Oh, a ton, a ton. I'll bet you I've paid probably $100,000 to fines to the city.
like
you know what SWIP is, right?
No.
SWIP is essentially like when they come in and they see that your dirt needs to be moved or your dirt's running onto the road, they fine you.
Okay.
That's essentially SWIP, SWPP. They fine me all the time. They still fine me. They come to my house and they go, oh, your drainage doesn't look right. So then I get a $125 fine. And then I don't pay it, so then it just racks up because I won't pay stuff now. I'm just like, no, I don't care. So, dude, I have tons and tons of fun. I built a pool in my front yard without any permit. Yeah. And the city just lost their minds on me. But, dude, it's been a battle because I built my road up to my house, and it's about a 1/4 mile road. And there's a code that it can only be so steep. which is total bullshit, right? It's my private road. I can do whatever I want. So they told me, hey, it can only be so steep. Well, when we did it with the dirt, it measured the right way. But when we put asphalt on it, it was off a little bit. And I went over my steepness. Yeah. Well, guess what? They came up and they were like, hey, we're not approving your house.
They got the level out.
They did, dude, with a phone. They measured a quarter mile of my driveway. And when anything showed, they marked, oh, this is above 14%. So, dude, then they came back to me and I said, you know what? I'll play the game with the city for a minute. I'll play with you. I need a variance. I'm not ripping my road up. It was $175,000 to lay this asphalt. I'm not ripping it up. They're like, yeah, we don't care. You have to. You have to do that. So I lay the road. They come and tell me that it's too steep. I fight for 6 months to get a variance. We go to court and the judge is like, yeah, we're not giving you a variance. You have to rip it up. So now, dude, my brand new road, my brand new house, we start ripping it up and we run into one of the city lines on the mountainside. My excavator goes, hey man, we just hit a line. And I go, good, f it up, rip it up. He goes, are you serious? I said, yes, rip it up. So he busts into it. I call the city. I go, you guys probably want to get up here now. And they go, okay. So 4 of the city guys come up and they're like, oh, you hit a line that's not in our plans somewhere. And I'm like, yeah. So what do you want to do? And they go, we'll give you a variance. No shit, dude. That's a real story. We'll give you a variance. I lay my road back down, another 175 grand because I ripped it up. From that point forward, I refuse to work with the city. I'm done working with the city. So I have walls that I built with no plant, no certificate. I have my pool with nothing because I'm done working with the city. And it drives them crazy, but I don't care. I don't give a shit, dude.
So why do you still live there?
You know what, dude? That's actually I'm beginning to get into a place where I'm like, you know what? It's time to start looking somewhere else. Yeah. And the problem is I'm really good friends with the Attorney General, Utah's Attorney General, and he loves me because of what I do for Utah and who I bring to Utah, like yourself. Yeah. Like Ed Milet, like Gary Vee. I'm throwing this big ass event. The Attorney General's like, dude, we don't have people like this in Utah that bring people like this here. Yeah. So he loves me. So, dude, every time I get a text from him almost every week now that's like, hey, man, do you have any issues with the city? Because if you keep having issues, I'm going to come down there and start turning heads. Because if they chase you off and you go somewhere else, I'm going to be pissed as shit. Yeah. So now, of course, again, working through good relationships, I think I'll be in a place where they're going to completely let go because they're going to find out real quickly, like, this person has too much to offer our city for us to continue down this path. So again, I don't know. I also don't run from fights. So that's the other reason. Like, you're going to give me a hard time and I'm just going to go, I'm going to move somewhere. No, yeah. That. I will fight you until I die. I will fight with the city until I don't care, dude. I'll keep dumping money into a lawyer. I don't care. So
that's funny, dude. It reminds me of maybe it's not that aggressive, but we have a community here called The Summit in Vegas, which is, land by itself is like $10 million right now.
Just crazy.
Yeah, just for land. And it's where Mark Wahlberg lives and all these big guys who are moving here. And I think, I want to say it's Mark Andreessen. It's one of these tech guys, but he bought like 40 million worth of land in that community. And so he's building like... I don't even know, like 100,000 square foot home, like something ridiculous, right? Yeah. And the city has some, and I heard this story, so I don't know like how it's been resolved or anything, but he's building this massive home, and Las Vegas has these rules of how big your pool can be now, because we have water restrictions. Yeah, and the pool is meant for any house, like a 2,000 square foot house is the same pool size, and this guy's like, dude, no,
not gonna happen.
Yeah. So I don't know how he's
dude, and he should. You know why? Because why can the casinos have it? Right. Why do the hotels get it, but I don't get it at my house? Yeah. Again, dude, this is a really good principle. Just because rules are set doesn't mean that that's the way things should be. You should be questioning and pushing the envelope all the time. Again, dude, like, and it doesn't need to get into a political conversation, but dude, COVID was total bullshit. Yeah. The masks were total bullshit. All of it was total bullshit. And everybody who didn't push against that should question themselves. Why didn't I push harder? Yeah. Like, why did I wear the mask? Why did I do the stupid shit that I did? Because that became a rule? No.
Yeah.
Everything in your life, rule at some point was some idiot who said, no, this has to be a rule, so you must abide by it. Well, maybe that's one of the reasons I'm successful, because I push against all the rules. I don't believe in rules. I think they're bullshit. And unless they really, really make sense, which most of them don't, I'll push against them and I'll fight against them.
Yeah.
And I'll be the guy if I have to.
Yeah. How many vaccines did you get?
Oh, shit. Zero. Zero. None. Absolutely not, dude. I never wore a mask. Never, dude. I was the guy like, okay, here we go. Like, I'm going to get in a fight today on the airplane because I'm not going to wear my mask. Like, oh, you want me to put it on? Cool. I'll put it on my chin. You know, dude, I'm the guy that's like, oh, no, I'm not going to put it on. I'm sipping my water, right? Like, I'm not going to do it, dude. And I'm not going to be the guy that gets in the fight with the stewardess because it's not her problem. So you need to be able to at least understand the situation. But dude, I push against everything. I almost got into a fist fight with people who were like, you need to wear your mask, you're gonna get me sick. And I'd be like, fuck you, I hope you die. I don't know what to tell you, dude. You're a coward. You're a pussy. Like, that's what it is. I used to do that all the time because, dude, that's how I feel. Stop abiding by rules, especially if they don't make sense.
Right.
You know, so again, and it puts me in a hard position a lot of times, but I'm willing to be in those hard positions because I'm where I'm at, because I'm willing to push the rules, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, like, you should be able to build your own house. You should be able to make the biggest pool in the world. And you know what they should do is they should charge you out the ass.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, you want that much water? Okay, well, we're going to charge you $10 billion. Okay, if you really want it, then pay the money for it. Because I know that the casinos have it, and they probably pay a ton for it.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, well, that's the way things have always been done, and this is the pool you can only have, you go, no. What's it going to cost me? Because I'm willing to pay it, but what's it going to cost me? And that's what I do with every rule. Oh, you think I shouldn't do that? Well, I'm not going to listen to you. So what's that going to cost me?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that was the story I heard with him here in Vegas was he's just going to do it, and the fines are whatever they are.
So he's going to get fined, I'm sure.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, but when you're building like literally $100 million home, the fines are kind of like insignificant.
You don't care. What are they going to do? Hey, man, here's a $2,000 a month fine. You don't give a shit. To heat that pool in the winter is going to cost way more than that anyways. He doesn't care. So you just got to be willing to do that, which he is. And most successful people, they're willing to do that. Mm-hmm. They're willing to say like, oh, I'm willing to pay whatever price I have to get what I want. And I don't abide by the rules that you set out because you set them out. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, and then what's really cool is on the backside, you find out really quickly when you push against rules, most of the time you're like, oh shit, that wasn't even a real thing anyways. It wasn't. You know, dude, when I built my helicopter pad at my house, everybody was like, oh, you got to call the FAA. You got to tell them you're building a pad. You got to do all these things. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Why? For what? Because you think I should? So finally, I had one of my buddies come in and he was like, no, don't tell the FAA. I said, am I okay to do that? He's like, dude, no. If you call the FAA, then they're going to go, well, hold on. How often are you landing there? What are you doing? He's like, then you're going to get them involved. They don't give a shit. He's like, if you land there every day, there might be an issue. But he's like, how often you land there? I don't know. Not regularly.
Yeah.
You know, because I have a hangar. I have somewhere else. He's like, no, you don't need to involve them. And I never have. And guess what, dude? I've never had a problem with the FAA ever. So again, it's like, well, this is the way it's always been done. These are the rules, so you must abide by them. No, you shouldn't. Kick against everything. Can you imagine if the whole world, let's just say one whole state kicked against the COVID bullshit that we were fed? And some states did, right? Like Florida did really hard. And what happened? They didn't have a lot of the rules and regulations. And then the states that went along with it, like Seattle, dude, they still have masks there. They still have dipshits walking around like they're in spacesuits thinking COVID's going to get them. That's insanity to me because all they did was go, I'm woke. So guess what? I abide by all the rules the government sets for me. You're a dipshit. And the reason your state is the way it is because you have gone along with what people have told you to do. That's what it is.
It goes back to the original conversation of being a consumer.
Yes.
And not thinking for yourself.
100%. They just consume, right? Like I hear, oh my gosh, I heard from Dr. Dipshit Fauci that I should do this. Did you consume that or did you come to that on your own explanation? Oh, I consumed it. Well, now I'm scared and now I wear a mask in the car alone. You're an idiot. You are an idiot. Oh, and dude, then that's what it is. So again, you know, you go back because that's what your whole podcast is. is like, how do I become successful? Stop abiding by all the stupid rules and start breaking out and finding out that there really isn't a lot of do or die rules.
So with this arena event, is it even approved? Do we have anything?
I don't know, man. I mean, listen.
We're just showing up or what?
No, it's one thing I have done, and this is a really good principle, is when you are like you and I, and you're good at a few things, you got to put people into places that do things that you can't do. You know that.
Yep.
Dude, I'm not good with a lot of things. I have a very, very good partner in Limitless Society that literally upholds everything that I don't. You know, like I'm like, hey, man, let's do this. And then I run out like a tornado, and he's like, he's over here putting all the pee and fixing everything. So, you know, for that, like, I'm like, let's have 10,000 people. We're going to have all these speakers. And then I run off, right? And he goes, all right, I guess we got to build this. And he does all that. So the event itself is going to be very, very well put together.
I can just see him behind the scenes talking to like city officials.
Oh,
and he's like, hey, just tell Keaton, like, we didn't listen to you, but we're gonna
100%.
We're gonna follow the rules,
because he knows that if they call me and they say no, then I'm burning that bitch to the ground. He knows that.
Yeah.
So he's like, listen, I really need, and he's the one doing the backdoor deals to make things happen. But dude, there are things in my life, obviously, that I'm in complete control of, and I don't have somebody like that for. And I'm just like, nah, let's burn it down. I don't care. But most of the stuff that I'm successful in, I have that guy that I have put in that position, like him, that goes, all right, man, I got 50 things that I got to do now that you just tornadoed the whole office.
This could have been done way easier.
Way easier and way more simplistic and much more streamlined, but you came in here, spun it all around, and then ran out, you know? So no, the event itself will be very, very well put together. We did have to have approval to land helicopters at the event.
Oh, you got that. That's good.
Oh yeah, we do have approval to do that. I mean, dude, we have like 4 or 5 or 6 helicopters that are going to be back and forth. Yeah. And one of them is a Black Hawk. And that's a big ass helicopter. So you don't just get to land that anywhere. So we have a whole section at the Maverick Center where they've quarantined or sectioned it off for just helicopter landings.
Yeah. I'm excited.
It's going to be fun, dude. It's going to be really, really fun.
I'm excited about it. What's your big goal, man? Like at the end of the day, you're only 35.
Yeah.
So we're like the young guns of business.
My goals always change, but I feel like my underlining goal has begun to remain the same. And I don't want to get, crazy deep on this, or maybe I do.
We got time.
I believe in God firmly, and I believe that he's our father. And if he's our father, then we're his children. And if we're his children, we're heir to him. And I don't think that most people understand that statement. And if that's true, the way I believe it, then that would mean that every single person on this earth has crazy, crazy potential and capabilities. And my purpose or my goal from here until the day that I die is to convince people of that and then show them how to get that, whatever they want. Now, I don't have a specific goal for every single person. I do have a specific goal as for what I want them to understand about themselves. And that to me, I mean, dude, I could list off 1 million wealth goals to you. I could list off 1 million physical goals to you. But for me, my goal now is to change the world by helping them see themselves the way that God created them and sees them. And that's why I created Limitless Society. Was to take the opportunity to say, listen, I know you think you're looking for wealth. I know you think you're looking for this. You think you're looking for that. Come in. Let me mentor you. And in that teaching, I'm going to teach you the real thing that you're looking for. And that is to become the greatest version of yourself. And the greatest version of yourself is the son or daughter of God and the heir to everything and to have everything and to build everything and to be everything. And if I can teach you that and actually get you to get that in your core, I can leave and you will change the world. So that's what my goal is now.
Yeah. No, I love it, dude. Such a good goal. So one thing we didn't touch on, I mean, we've touched on a lot of things today, was your TV career. And I remember the first time I met you, we were talking about it, and I was like, why is your name the Muscle? Like, what's that all about? Like, who gives themselves the name the Muscle?
The worst.
And you're like, I didn't give myself this name. And I'm like, well, you put it everywhere.
Yeah.
So what is it?
So we had a TV show for 8 or 9 years on Discovery Channel. We were one of the #1 shows forever and ever on Discovery as a reality show. It was called Diesel Brothers. And that was one of the businesses that I built, you know, when I tell you that we built businesses. And we essentially became guys that built anything you could possibly think of, and really everything you shouldn't think of. And the Discovery Channel saw it as an opportunity to be a reality show. There's 3 of us.
What exactly were you building?
Anything with a diesel.
Okay.
Trucks, tanks, planes, helicopters, boats, cars, motorcycles, golf carts, anything, dude. Buses, monster trucks. I mean, anything you could think of, we most likely have built. And it's crazy to say that, but that's true. So we were doing that, and there's 3 of us. There's Heavy D, there's Diesel Dave, and then there's myself. Well, when we started all of this, it was kind of important that we all had nicknames because we were branding ourselves, right, as the Diesel Brothers.
Yeah.
Well,
you guys aren't actual brothers.
No, we've been best friends for a long time, like since 6th grade.
Yeah.
But no, we're not actual brothers. But Diesel Dave, in one of our first videos, we were like the big sensation on Facebook when Facebook came out. We grew our Facebook pages really fast because of the branding, right?
Yep.
And so we knew we needed branding, and it wasn't like, hey, you're Keaton. No, you got to be something. And at that time, I was actually powerlifting. And Diesel Dave knew I was powerlifting. And so we did a video that went viral. And in the video, it was me. I had cut a truck in half and I had added a door to it. So it was a 6-door truck. And I was doing donuts in a circle around Diesel Dave. And Diesel Dave was like, I'm here with the muscle. He just came out with the name, right? He's like, I'm here with the muscle, spinning donuts in the truck. And then the video had 10 million views, right? And that's how it became. It was literally, he were like, well, who's the muscle? Who's, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then when the show started, they were like, hey, we're really going hard into the branding. You're not Dave and Keaton. You're Heavy D, Diesel Dave, and the Muscle. And so then the show blew up. I mean, dude, we had 2 to 5 million viewers every episode. And every country in the world saw it. The Discovery Channel is the biggest channel in the world. There's no channel bigger than that. Their reach is bigger than everybody else. So they put us on in every single country. In fact, in Brazil, we're still on as their #1 show. In Germany, we're still on. Like in Iceland, we're still on. You know, it's crazy to watch because it's dubbed over in their language. So I'll talk and somebody will, you know, whatever. So anyway, so we had the TV show, and that whole time I was building companies. But in the TV show, it's funny because it's reality, right? So people think it's real. I was the parts guy.
Okay.
One of the greatest things or hurdles I've had to deal with is people see me now and they're like, oh, well, you're rich because you were on TV.
Yeah.
And you were the parts guy. You weren't even like an owner of the company, which was total bullshit. I actually didn't even work for the company. Like, by season 4, I had literally had nothing to do with the company. I had left because I was busy doing other things. But the TV show wanted me to stay because of the character that I was. So they paid me completely separate. So that's how the name came. Diesel Dave just shouted it one day and it stuck. People ask me all the time, they're like, what? Why? I'm like, dude, I'm not a douche. I'm not the one who's like, I'm the muscle. No, that's the worst nickname ever. And anytime I get like introduced as that, I'm always like, oh, geez. Especially in this space, because I'm like, hey, I want to teach you about how to become successful. And they're like, this is the muscle. Oh, great. So everybody's like, cool, who's this guy? Get him off stage. So anyways.
Well, I'm gonna make sure we MC you as the muscle.
Yeah. Well, dude, so this is how it is. Because I tell people, I'm like, listen, you can say this is Keaton Hoskins, also known as the Muscle from Diesel Brothers, right?
Yeah.
And all of my branding is the muscle. I have 6 million followers and it's all the muscle.
Yeah.
So it is what it is and I've accepted it. But no, I like to make it really clear. I did not come up with that name. That was given to me and it stuck because the Discovery Channel was like, this is what it is.
But don't you have the muscle tattooed somewhere?
I wish I did, but I don't. I wish I did, because that would solidify it. Like, you're a real douge, man.
You really do like the name. Don't lie.
Especially if it was like on my chest.
Exactly.
I'm the muscle. No, yeah,
So, like, how do you think the TV show helped? Like, what did it actually do for your career?
You know, that's a really good question, because most people are like, well, yeah, you're successful and you're famous and you built all these businesses because of the TV show. Here's the fun part. The TV show never made me $1, not $1. And this is why. So we started filming. We became a hit sensation. We were actually famous on Facebook before we ever even started the show. I had 200,000 followers on Facebook before our show even aired.
Is that how they found you?
That's how they found us. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So the show started, and we realized that when you're on TV, dude, you're different. Like, you can be Instagram famous, you can be money famous, you can be all these famouses, but when you're on TV, it's very, very different. Your credibility goes much, much higher. So as our show grew, we became notable. Like, people were like, oh, these guys are like a hit show. Like, this is a very successful show. We started going to LA and doing Hollywood and doing all those things. I mean, even today, like, if people say, hey, the Diesel Brothers are going to be there, you'll have a half a mile long line of people that want to meet us. In fact, we just went to Canada a month ago, and we had 12,000 people waiting to meet us in a line. Like, it was insane. But essentially, I took that and I used it to make the relationships that I have now and build the relationships that I have. I used my TV to network and get me into the rooms that I wanted to be in. And when people ask me, like, well, what do you mean when you say you didn't make any money? Dude, we made in between $3,000 to $15,000 an episode, right?
Everyone?
No, just everybody's different, right? Everybody has their, anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 an episode, which is not very much when you're talking about 12 episodes a year. It's just not.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we got sued by the EPA for blowing black smoke out of our trucks. Like, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I got sued for over $250,000. Well, guess what? I never made more than $250,000 on the TV show. So guess where all that money went? Right down the drain to the EPA.
Yeah.
I literally made no money from being on the TV show. Now, my notoriety, my credibility, getting in rooms, building what I've built, my network, the people I know, it made a huge difference. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I would never say that it didn't. But there's also other people on the show that never built anything outside of the TV show, and they have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
So again, I always run into that, like, well, you're only successful, you're only this because you had a TV show. And it's like, no, that's not the case, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
So
I get approached. I've been approached a few times about TV, and every time we went down the road, it just became abundantly clear. I'm like, yeah, I don't need this.
It's the worst decision. I had Discovery reach out to me last week. They were like, we want to do a new show with Diesel Dave and you, where you travel the world and blue. And all I'm hearing is like, waste of time, waste of time, waste of time. It's not worth it. If you are a nobody and you've never made any money and you're looking at going on to a TV show, good. Give it a thought. Give it a thought.
Yeah.
If you have done anything worth note in your life, do not do a TV show. It is a waste of time.
Yeah. How many hours did you have to film and all that?
40 to 50 a week.
And how long did it take to film a season?
It took a year.
So you were just doing it full time?
Full time. 100% full time.
To make nothing?
To make nothing, dude. I mean, I think the year I made the most was $150K.
So where, I guess, Discovery just makes all the money?
Yes, always. It's Hollywood, dude.
How much money do they make?
A lot. So this is kind of the catch-22 for people. People are asking us why we moved from Discovery to YouTube. They're like, why did you do that? Well, because we capture all the advertising money, and that doesn't go to Discovery Channel. Yeah. So our show gets, let's say, 2 million viewers every episode.
So you guys are still filming?
No. Oh. Yeah, we are for YouTube, but not for Discovery Channel.
I didn't know that.
So Heavy D has one of the fastest growing YouTube channels ever.
Okay.
Right now, he started 2 years ago. He's got 5 million subscribers.
Oh, wow.
And he just does recovery stuff and all the stuff we used to do. And I'm on, regularly. I don't love to film anymore, so I don't,
Yeah.
But dude, Discovery, it's very simple. Hey man, we have a TV show that does 2 million views per episode. How much do you want to spend in advertising? Cool. We want to give you $2 million for advertising. Cool. We want to give you $500K. So they sell our stuff, right? They make $10 million an episode or something like that. They turn around and pay us $200K. That's how it works, dude. And so when we got to the point of realizing like that's what this is and we're just going to get strung out and we're not going to make any money, we're done. And Dave went over to YouTube, and now Dave makes $500,000 a month on YouTube that would have gone to Discovery Channel.
Right.
So they got out. So now Dave, that's what he does full time, Heavy D. It's called the Heavy D Sparks.
So he's continuing the show.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And And the time to make the show is so much easier.
So much easier because literally, dude, it's like, hey, we film 2 to 3 days a week, all day, and then we're done. And we just did 2 or 3 episodes.
Yep.
Whereas, dude, before, an episode would take 3 to 5 months.
It's crazy.
Because, dude, you would come in and build a car. A car takes 3 months to build. And they would go, we didn't film that right. Tear it all down. or something would happen and the cameras weren't rolling. We'd be like, oh, shit, we got to get that. Let's do it all over again. So, dude, to put on a bed on a truck takes 2 hours. Somehow it turned into a full day. Dude, it was the worst. So we got to that point of like, dude, you guys are going to string us out until you run us into the ground. You're not going to pay us. It's not going to be worth it. So last year we said, we're done. We don't want to do this anymore. We have no desire to do this
At what
anymore.
point does it become worth, like when do these guys start making some serious coin? Because you hear about, you know, certain shows and like, I guess, A-list celebrities, like really making some dough.
You know, some of them, and when I tell you we were the top, we really were the top shows on Discovery. We still to this day hold the record at Discovery for the most watched premiere episode ever, which is a big deal because Discovery's been around since the 60s.
Yep.
So we were the top and we still didn't make very much money. Now, there are some people who make anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 an episode. Those are much bigger reality shows, like the Kardashians.
Right.
Each one of them are making $100K an episode, whatever.
You think that's all they're making?
No, I think what they're doing is, I'm just giving a general number. Let's say 100 to 500K. That's not where they're making money. They're doing it in other ways from the TV show.
Yeah,
like, hey, wear this, you know, like, you know, for us, that's how we started. That's how I started making money because I'd be like, hey man, if you do this, I'll get it on the show. That's how I personally, that's what I would do, dude. I would go to truck companies and be like, hey, give me your $40,000 truck, give me your $10,000 lift, give me your, and I'll make sure that it gets seen on the show. That's what I started personally doing. That's how I started making money to it.
Yeah.
So I think the Kardashians are doing the same thing. But no, I mean, outside of the top 10 reality shows ever, there's not a ton of money to be made. So.
Yeah, because when you see, and I guess like, I'm just thinking now about Netflix since TV's kind of dying. And, you know, it's like, if you had a show, would you rather it go on Discovery or Netflix?
100% Netflix.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest issue is I was like, can we please get on Netflix? Like, because this is ridiculous. Nobody wants to watch this shit live anymore. So you have a rating system, right? And the rating system is called +3. And what that meant was that they would take your ratings and after 3 days, they would see how many people who recorded it watched it. Because nobody wants to watch your shit live anymore because they like Hulu and Netflix and all of those things. So, dude, our ratings would go from like, okay, hey, dude, 500,000 people watched it live and 1 million people watched it in the +3. So you got 1.5 million people watching your show.
Yep.
So I thought, dude, why would we ever be anywhere else but on Hulu or Netflix?
Yeah.
And that was our biggest issue is they wouldn't put us on Netflix because when they're high performing, they don't want to sell it to Netflix because then they take a lot of revenue from it. There are other shows they do. They'll be like, this didn't really work out. Let's sell it to Netflix and have them just pay us for it.
Right.
So that's what happened. But dude, I would 100%. If I could go back and do a show on Netflix, now you're talking about something different. Plus there's more money there.
So Netflix is going to pay you more and there's more exposure.
Yes, because if I can at any point just go boom, 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 Diesel Brothers. Oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. I don't have to watch it live. Boom, click and play. More people are going to watch your stuff. Plain and simple. That's why YouTube crushes.
Yeah.
Because people can go back and watch a YouTube episode over and over. They can't go back and watch anything on Discovery Channel unless they pre-record it on them by themselves.
Right.
That's the problem.
Isn't Discovery on the Disney app now?
Yes. Well, no. They have their own. It's called Discovery Plus, just like Disney Plus.
Oh, I think National Geographic.
Yes, National Geographic's is on. But now what Discovery did is they saw that model that Disney did, and they said, we need to do it. So they did Discovery Plus. So for $9.99, you now have access on your phone to go watch any of these shows whenever you want.
But is Discovery, like, I guess, that big of a brand to command that?
Yes, Discovery's huge.
Okay.
Just to be clear, the #1 highest paid CEO in the world is the Discovery CEO.
What's he making?
I think it's like $400 million.
400 million?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm outdated on those numbers.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing numbers and I was like, holy shit, that's a CEO? Like, dude, it's unreal. Like, so when you talk about a big network, yes, like Discovery is huge.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I remember hearing like these deals Netflix was cutting. Like, I remember like Chappelle had a
Yes.
deal for 20 million for one hour special. I'm thinking, holy crap, Netflix is paying some coin.
Dude, because think about it this way. So what you do is you sell an episode that never really stops airing.
Yeah.
So we say, hey man, Theo Vaughn comes out and he does a network special for Netflix, and they buy it for 20 million, and then they turn around and sell the advertising to it for years. Because it's like, oh, well, dude, we're going to consistently have 100,000 people a week watch this episode.
But they don't have advertising, Netflix.
They do, 100%. It's just the way that they do it is much, much different.
Just placement.
Yes.
Placement in the episode.
Way different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, again, people are like, well, Netflix makes money because you have your subscription. Yeah, bro. But Netflix is doing way more advertising than you think.
Yeah.
Because advertising money is really where all the money, the bulk money is at.
Yeah.
And if you actually broke down their model, you would see what that is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same thing as the content I make now. It's like I'm just inserting my companies into, it does, and sometimes it could be a direct ad, like this podcast will cut and it'll be an ad. And there's other times we're just talking about one of the businesses, and that's the ad.
100%.
So,
and that's again what Netflix does. So there's nobody in the world right now that's putting eyes somewhere that isn't somehow doing some type of advertising and getting paid for it.
Yeah.
It's just how they do it is very different.
Yeah. Well, bro, it's been insightful to hear your journey. I think anyone can take away from this is don't follow the rules. Just do what you want and, figure it out along the way.
And don't call me from jail and say, you told me to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Keaton, when he's not following the rules, he's doing it, I guess, monetarily.
Yeah.
He's not breaking laws.
Yeah, don't go through and break like crazy laws and then come back and be like, I'm in prison now. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Where can they get to the event, dude?
So 3 things. You can find me from Instagram on _muscle.
Of course it is.
Of course, because that's what I had to do. I answer every one of my DMs. I tell people that all the time. They don't believe me, but I really do. Limitless Society. My mentor program is limitlesssociety.com. And then the event itself to come out and hear these speakers is thelimitlessarena.com, and they can get their tickets there.
Perfect. Well, guys, go check it out. I will be speaking there. I'm excited to be a part of it. I want to thank you for coming out to Vegas, man, and inviting me, and also speaking at WealthCon, which is going to be October 3rd to the 6th. So maybe make a little trip out of it. Go to the Limitless Arena, then come to WealthCon, and it's going to be a good time. So, guys, we appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Whatever it is you want to do this day and age, you can hyper learn that subject in 60 days. The information is out there. You put everything you can over 60 days, you're going to have a very good understanding of whatever it is you're trying to do.
In his first year being a realtor, he made over $1 million with just doing YouTube.